Welcome to the Pocket. I'm your host, Scooter, and here for you guys today, I have my Week 18 preview video for the Giants game at Philadelphia to finish off the season. Now, in this video, we're going to kick it off with a draft overview, and then we're going to go into the injuries, the starters who are benched by either the Giants or the Eagles. I'll give you a little bit of a game breakdown, and then we'll go into Black Monday. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. Do I think either of them are going to get fired? Are we going to keep both of them or just one of them? We'll talk about it when we get there. And please, while you're at it, don't forget to leave a like and comment on the video. It really helps me out to support the channel. And subscribe if you aren't already so that you don't miss any of the videos that I upload. And you can also hit the notification bell to make sure of that. So to start things off, let's just address the possible draft pick scenarios that the Giants could end up in depending on whether they win or lose this game. So they currently possess the 4th overall pick. They have the hardest strength of schedule of the top 4 teams, who are all tied at 3-13. And then below them are 5, I believe it is, 4-12 teams. That would be the Jaguars, Panthers, Jets, Raiders, and Bears. Now, of all of those teams, only the Bears have a more difficult strength of schedule. What that means is that if the Giants finish with the same record as these teams, then the teams with the easiest strength of schedule will be placed higher. So that's not good for the Giants. Now let's look at what happens if they lose, right? If the Giants lose and the Tennessee Titans beat the Texans, the Browns beat the Ravens, that's happening today, and the Patriots beat the Bills, and that Bills team is the one team that really doesn't need to win. They don't need to win at all. Baltimore would like to win. The Texans would like to win, but there's a good chance that the Patriots could win. If those 3 games have that outcome and the Giants lose, then the Giants would actually regain the number 1 overall pick. So it is possible. Now, the downside is if the Giants lose and the Titans also lose and the Browns also lose and the Patriots also lose, the Giants just stay put at 4. And that would be unfortunate. I think there's a chance that could happen, but we will see. And then, as I mentioned before, there are 4-12 teams ahead of the Giants. So if they all lose and finish with 4 wins and the Giants win, then the Giants will land anywhere from 4 to 8. Now, that last team, the Bears, who would pick at 9, have a more difficult strength of schedule, so we can't fall any lower than them. So that's your draft scenarios, is depending on what happens this week, the Giants could have anything from the 1st overall pick to the 8th overall pick. And honestly, the outcome of this game is going to affect this Giants team in reality, when you think about how long a quarterback might stay on your team, 10, 15, some even 20 years, this could affect the Giants for decades to come. It wasn't clear from that. You could probably tell I don't want the Giants to win this game. Of course, I'd love to see the Giants, go out there and play hard in their last game of the season. I'd love to see that. But ultimately, from an objective standpoint, I do not want us to win this game because I don't want the 8th overall pick. It's just not what we need right now. We need a higher draft pick. Even 4 is somewhat out of reach of striking distance of some of these quarterbacks or potentially garnering a trade with another team. So it's really not an ideal position. And if we're the 8th pick, then we're really not going to – this rebuild is going to take way longer. Like I said, I don't want that to happen. And the Eagles are resting their starters. So the Vegas lines have moved accordingly, and resting for the Eagles is Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett. So they're going to be starting Tanner Mckee, their 3rd string quarterback. They're resting Saquon. They're starting 2 wide receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. I really don't want to win this game. I know it's really sad to say, but that's just the reality. And looking at what the Eagles starting lineup is going to be, Tanner Mckee going out there, as they really are seemingly trying to throw this game. I mean, the line is only Eagles -3 and an over-under of 37.5. So they're not expecting a lot of points. And honestly, if the Eagles are trying to throw this game and the Giants come out and play like they did last week, I'd give it a really strong chance that they come out and win, the Giants. And it's not like the Eagles have never done anything like this before to this Giants team, where they sort of meddle with the Giants draft position and their offseason resources in any way that they can affect it. They're a smart franchise, honestly. They don't hesitate, and they go ahead and do it. Flashback to, I believe it was Jalen Hurts' rookie year in the Joe Judge times. Giants were like 7-9 or 7-10, but they had a shot to make the playoffs because the NFC East was so bad that year, and the NFC. But the Eagles, they were already out, and they were playing the Commanders, who, if the Commanders won, then they would make the playoffs instead of the Giants. Now, like I said, the Eagles, they were already eliminated from the playoffs. So they elected to basically say, okay, well, we already kind of know what we have in Jalen. We're not going to get too much out of him in this game that we don't already know. And we can basically jump the Giants, and the Cowboys are in a similar draft spot to us. Let's lose this game, screw the Giants and put ourselves in a better position than the rest of our teams in the division. And in that year's draft, they got Devontae Smith. They lost that game because they started Nate Sudfeld, and Doug Peterson said, and I quote, to see what they had in him, when they already had Jalen Hurts on the roster. So, like I said, they got Smitty in that year's draft, and they jumped right ahead of the Giants. And so the Giants then traded down with the Bears, who selected Justin Fields, and the Giants drafted Kadarius Toney, whose career has been volatile to say the least, and is no longer a Giant. So that's the result of falling victim to these games that these teams are playing, and it's dog eat dog. If you're not in on it, then all that's happening is other teams are getting ahead of you because of it. So I don't want that to happen again, and it looks like they're going to give it a shot. We just can't afford to win this game. We really can't. Like I said, going from 4-8, because if we lose, then there's no way for us to fall below the 4th spot, which you can still sort of do something with. But if we fall to 5, 6, 7, 8, I mean, there's good players in this draft, but you're basically guaranteeing that you're probably going to have to get a bridge QB or select one of the guys who aren't even top 2. And even those two, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, I saw a report today of someone saying, yeah, they would have been selected behind Bo Nix. That's the gauge of how we should evaluate their talent. So this is just really not looking good for the Giants heading into the offseason. I just kind of want this regular season to be over so we can start kind of breaking down how we should approach it. And do you blame me for wanting it to be over? I mean, it's been a miserable season to be a Giants fan. And at least going into next year, we can't get our hopes up because we won't. And that way we won't get disappointed, right? We just understand that we need to fully restart. And that'll sort of head into the next thing I want to talk about. On Monday, after the conclusion of the regular season, is typically when decisions about keeping or firing head coaches and general managers are made. Now, obviously, the Giants' general manager Joe Schoen and their head coach Brian Daboll are in hot water after this season, but not just this season. The season before, where things fell apart. They got a couple culture wins and finished 6-11. And then, of course, that first year was a huge success where they made the playoffs and exceeded their expectations. But ultimately, the faith in them has been lost. The fan base does not trust them anymore. They signed Daniel Jones to the contract extension. Whether or not that was influenced by John Mara is something we will probably never know. But in the end of the day, we chose to keep him and allow Saquon Barkley to walk, go to a division rival, and completely embarrass us for the entire year. Now he's making commercials, making fun of John Mara, saying he doesn't have any trouble sleeping at night. I mean, it's just been a disaster. And whether or not the owner told them to do something that they maybe didn't agree with is besides the point, because you're the one who signs the paper. You are in the position to hand out these contracts. I know the owner signs the checks, but you understand what I mean about Joe Schoen. Brian Daboll, he's got to be working very closely with Joe Schoen on all of these decisions. So he needs to be held accountable a little bit too when it comes to the team building and the decision to keep Jones. Now, the news has come out recently that what we expect John Mara to do is to retain Joe Schoen, but let go of Brian Daboll. I don't really like this idea. I think you should either fire them both or keep them both. This seems like a half measure. It's giving the fan base a pound of flesh. And if any of you have ever seen the show Breaking Bad, for a quick reference, Mike is a character who deals very closely with Walt. And what he tells Walt is he would never take a half measure again, because there was a suspect who he threatened after he abused and attacked his girlfriend at the time or whatever, and Mike let him off. But then what happened is 2 weeks later or whatever, something terrible happened again, right? So Mike's lesson to Walt was, don't do a half measure. If something's not working, completely get rid of it or leave it in the dust, but you have to make a fully committed decision one way or another. And that's how I feel about this Joe Schoen Brian Daboll thing. If you really believe in Joe Schoen, or you really believe in Brian Daboll, or you believe in both of them, you need to be prepared to keep them for 2 or 3 more years, because you're going to have pressure to fire them in this first year. The chances are the Giants aren't going to have the greatest start to next year, whether we have a new quarterback that's a rookie or a bridge QB, whether we change offensive and defensive coordinators, whatever we do, we're not going to have a great start to the season. And the first thing that's going to happen is people are not going to blame the new quarterback. They're going to blame Brian Daboll. They're going to blame Joe Schoen for not building the team, not having them prepared. It's going to come down on them. Fan base is going to get restless, and then eventually you're going to be pressured into firing those one or both of them. And now your coach and general manager who just made the decision on who to select in the draft or who to sign as your bridge QB are now gone. And whoever is the new coach and GM have no attachment to this new quarterback. This is what happened with Daniel Jones. Dave Gettleman selected him. We got Brian Daboll and we got Joe Schoen. And they decided actually to keep him. So that is on them. But between even Gettleman and Schoen, there were multiple coaches that Daniel Jones had to cycle through and continue to restart. I feel that it is just best for this fan base to completely restart, get a new head coach, get a new general manager, new offensive, defensive coordinator, blow the entire thing up. Now, I'm also sort of okay if we really do believe in Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, and we do actually commit to holding on to them for, I'd say, another 2 years. I would be accepting of giving them the chance to develop the new guy, but I just lean a little bit more towards blowing it up because I don't want any attachment. I don't want people making desperate decisions, and I've said this in previous videos, and you probably hear other people saying it too, about people making these desperate decisions, and they don't really agree or think that people are doing anything but their best. You're a fool if you don't think that, especially someone in a management or coaching position, doesn't make decisions based off of, and now, of course, they have to listen to the owner, but they're making decisions based off of keeping their job. That is their main priority. They want to prepare the team and they want what's best for them. But if it's up to their job or, the team, in the end of the day, most coaches, I would imagine, are probably going to try to keep their job if they want it still. So they're going to make some desperate moves, right? Let's get that rookie quarterback in there right now when maybe he's not so ready. And then the blame can be redirected and, you buy yourself a little bit more time. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I want a brand new head coach with a new identity that we can give to all the players and say the past is gone. This is a new era. And same thing with the general manager and same thing with the quarterback. Everyone will be on the same page. So that's my take on Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. As for the game itself, I did come out with a predictions video, but I will recap it for you right here very briefly. As we know, Tanner Mckee is going to be battling Drew Lock. The Giants have a ton of injuries, but any starter they have is out there. As for the Eagles, their main offensive trio of weapons, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, are not going to be out there. Dallas Goedert is on IR, and some of their offensive linemen are most likely not going to be playing very much at all. However, the Eagles' depth is certainly far better than the Giants' depth. Now, the Giants have played better recently, so you could maybe try to argue against it, but the Eagles, they're such a deep team. We know this. And I would expect their backups to defeat our backups, even if Tanner Mckee is in there, because Tanner Mckee with better support is better than Drew Lock, not really working with quite as much. So in this game, I am taking Eagles -3, and I'm taking under 37.5. I will be having the Eagles winning 20-16 for my last take on the Giants. Regular season games this season. It's been pretty awesome going into these games. A little disappointing that there hasn't been as much substance for me to, authentically dive into because it really hasn't mattered towards the back half of the year. But nonetheless, I appreciate all of you guys clicking on and leaving those likes and comments on these videos to support. It's meant a lot, and it's been a ton of fun for me this year. I can't wait to get you guys some of that off-season content too. And then stay tuned for the reaction video that'll come out after this game. We're going to be having a guest. I mentioned he was a Giants fan last time. A little more details. He is someone I went to high school with, someone I played football with in high school. He also went on to play some football in college himself. So him and I are both huge football fans, and it's been very close to our lives for such a long time. So I'm very excited to have him on, especially since he's a Giants fan, so we could sort of vent to each other about the type of season we've had. So if you did make it this far, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and your comments down below. Subscribe if you aren't already, and check out some of my other videos. I have a power rankings video for week 18, and I have a score predictions video for the season finale. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all had a great holidays, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.